Hey everybody, Elizabeth Nader back with you tonight, Jersey First TV. Welcome back everybody. Tonight's subject, very important, small business and what's going on with small business in New Jersey as a result of the pandemic, the shutdown, everything we've been experiencing. Here's a reality. If you don't own a small business, you probably work for one. So this is an important issue for us to discuss tonight. I want to welcome our guests, Mike Stanzilis, Sean Mabey, and Bobby Howell. Welcome to Jersey First TV.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth.
Great to be here, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I feel like I finally made it. I'm here. I'm getting interviewed by Elizabeth Nader.
Wow, it's a big deal. Actually, Sean, today someone posted, a mutual friend, that the greatest person walking the earth was going to be on the show tonight. Now, I think that's a bit much.
Yes, I do too.
I expect you to live up to that. Mike and Bobby, don't be intimidated. I'm sure all will work out. But we're thrilled to have each of you guys have a lot to share with us. I'm going to start with you, Bobby. You are a business owner. You own the Playa Bowls. Tell us about that. You've been expanding through the pandemic, but obviously restaurateur. So one of the hardest hit segments in this economy when we shut down now almost 18 months ago. So Bobby, tell us what you experienced when the whole shutdown started.
Prior to construction from my first unit, which we opened up in June of 2000, which was the absolute epicenter of the pandemic, I made a decision to push forward with it, primarily based on the brand and the strength of the brand. I saw how other franchisees for Playa Balls were managing through the pandemic with third party, just to stay afloat, so to speak. So I pushed forward with it. We did construction, took us about 3 months. We opened the end of June, and it was quite a success. There was a line out the door, down the side. We took all measures, as per the state guidelines. And based on the success of the first business, I realized that the brand was somewhat pandemic resilient. It's really a peculiar situation because I've been a restaurateur. I know what it is to operate a restaurant, fine dine, as well as, executive positions as a chef. And I just can't even imagine what it is like for the restaurateur right now, who has been struggling since last spring to just try and keep the doors open and the lights on. And fortunately, we've been, very blessed with the type of response that we've gotten from the community. The staffing, as much as staffing is so difficult, and I'm sure my other two guests here will speak to that, I'm drawing mostly from high school and college students. It takes on a whole different dynamic. We do have turnover every season when the high school kids graduate and go off to college, and when the high school kids go back to school. So we deal with the turnover on a regular basis, but there's usually always other high school kids or other college kids that live in the area surrounding the businesses that kind of fill that pipeline. So we've been pretty fortunate. Really count my blessings.
Yeah.
And we're pushing forward. We're looking at our fourth location now.
Well, that's awesome. And I think what you highlight is it really depended on the kind of restaurant you had, right? The kind of business you had, whether or not you could survive the shutdown and the measures that were put forth by our governor. Fortunately, your particular restaurant is more of a takeout already, more easier to do. It's not, people aren't going in there for 2-hour dinners.
Right.
But I do know you have a lot of experience in the industry, and it's been painful to see what's happened. I'm going to come back to you in a little bit to talk to you more about staffing, but Sean, tell us about your businesses, and they're very different than Bobby's, and how you were impacted by the shutdown.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. So obviously, I think like anybody going into this, it was coming so fast at you, and you had to make so many different preparations with trying to clean things, trying to do things even more proper. And within the nature of my business, which is portable restrooms and septic, we're already conscious about being clean. It's a dirty job, but as you're working, you have to learn how to work clean and clean yourself, wash your hands, have sanitizer, and all those type things. So it was a little scary at first, trying to keep going, because we were in the service business. We're in sanitation. People need us. That's not going to stop. So we needed to keep going to work every day and make these things happen. As far as what we experienced, we lost a lot of business through any of our venues, our concerts, our food truck festivals, our fall festivals. All that work went away. But what created was more of an awakening, especially to like construction type things, of bringing the proper volume of equipment and having places for people to wash their hands. So we spent many nights building sinks, because you couldn't buy a portable sink transportable. They were just not there, because everybody around the country and all over the world were trying to buy them. So we got creative, and we were running out, buying sinks, putting them together, building holding tanks, just so we could supply our customers. There was a lot of venues, even like restaurants, if they were outdoor dining and they didn't have the facility to make it work, we would build sinks and bring sinks there just so they could be compliant and stay open.
Right. Well, it's a good message of pivoting, right? Which is something that I know, last summer we tried to highlight with businesses that tried to figure out how to pivot, how to actually address the new mandates in a way that could maybe bring in new business. In some cases, new avenues of business. Mike, I want to ask you about that. As VP of the Chamber of Commerce, you had to see so many stories, so many people that were confused, hurting, questioning what they needed to do. I'm sure you saw failures and successes. Talk to us about what are some of the biggest lessons you learned early on in the shutdown.
I hate to use the word that everybody hates, right? But it begins with a P and ends with a T. It's called pivot. Yeah. I saw some people look at this as an opportunity, and some people bury their heads in the sand, and some people had their heads buried in the sand and had it handed to them because of the nature of the business. Morris County is unbelievable in this region. Morris County is the 6th wealthiest county in the country. All you have to do is drive around. You'll go past Novartis headquarters, BASF, GAF. These giant companies and their parking lots are still empty. Today, they're still empty, or just a handful of cars at most. There's a local economy around each of those. The 2 largest employers in the county is Picatinny and Atlantic Health. Now those people are still coming in, but when you look at the rest, Novartis and around, like our favorite mayor, Mark Taylor of Florham Park in his town, right? That Novartis right on the edge of East Hanover. He's got BASF right there in the middle of it, Summit Health, and those parking lots are empty. And it's having this ripple effect of all of the small mom and pop businesses. I've talked to dry cleaners are probably the ones that are completely crushed and no one thinks about it, but I've been wearing this same suit for 18 months now.
Oh boy, that's tough, Mike.
Nobody knows, right? I mean, you see it waist up, that's it, it's wrinkled behind me. But the point is, I went to my dry cleaner the other day and he hasn't seen me in a long time. And he was, the one in my town closed. I had to go to the one in the next town, and he's taking as much business as he can. It's just him and his wife.
Yeah.
So, the silver lining is yet to be apparent, because there's so many other linings. The future of work is a huge part of it, and what's going to happen with that. So we're still navigating our way through this.
Well, you brought up some good subjects that we're going to get around to here as a result of all of that. One of them I want to start, Bobby, and ask you, when the government came out and offered financial packages, there was the PPP, different EIDL loans from the SBA, and then there were state packages that continue today. How did you look at that? Did you feel that was something that would help your business? Did you think that was something you didn't need? What was your reaction to the aid that was coming last spring from Washington?
I think that more than anything, it was signaling to the people who needed it the most that there was help available, that the SBA was in a position to help with the PPP or the disaster loans. I was in kind of a peculiar situation because we formed the businesses back late in 19. So we really didn't start business, payroll for that matter, until June of 20. Most of the requirements that we kind of went through really put us on the outside of the requirements. But again, we were positioned to go into this business with capital. We knew that I wasn't going to get into this unless I had the capital sustaining power to get me through, a certain amount of time, which happened to not the pandemic didn't really impact that much. Obviously, the numbers we're starting to see were off because obviously we opened in the midst of the pandemic. So even though that we're kind of midstream right now with the pandemic and there's a lot of uncertainty, we're starting to see the differential in the numbers based on last year's at this time and this year at this time.
Okay.
To speak to the office buildings being vacant, my Morristown location's on Speedwell. I have the north and south tower directly across the street from me with the Regency right between them. We have felt the impact of that. It's, I was saying to an associate yesterday, we don't know if those office buildings will ever go 80% capacity. To his point, everybody's become accustomed to working virtual, and home office has been, a form of, place of employment. Yeah. And there is an awful lot of office space out there that, again, is going to be vacant for quite a while. And the upside to my business is that, and we have this, the people that are sitting at home, they call third party for delivery. So we're still making those deliveries, but it's not to the office, it's to the house.
Right, exactly. But there is that whole ecosystem. Mike made that point, you make that point, that is around, these buildings. I mean, imagine what's going on in Manhattan. It's concentrated there more than any other place. And Mike, I'm going to want you to talk about the commercial real estate end of this in a minute, but just sticking with kind of the government funds. And I know, Sean, you're also on Kinnelon City Council in addition to being a business owner. So a lot of the businesses in Kinnelon. The initial funding that came out, the PPP packages and all of that. Now we've had another round coming from Murphy. It's interesting to ask, do you know businesses that have taken this money? I know many that took PPP, but now I'm finding that most don't know how to navigate this new round of all these millions of dollars. Who's it going to? Is it really going to the right people? Is it helping them? Do you know stories of people in Kinnelon who were saved by the government funding? And is it actually a good thing?
Well, I think like anything with the government, you get maybe 2 parts good and then 50 parts bad. Good intentions don't always equal good results. Yeah. I do know some people that it helped them tremendously. And I do know people that ended up taking it that probably necessarily didn't need it. There was a lot in the food industry, and I happened to work for a lot of diners and a lot of different places that are food establishments, and they needed it drastically. Sure. Okay. So then again, there was other construction-based businesses that did get shut down. They took it, but they rebounded a lot faster than food, right? But the biggest problem, I think, I guess, is how it's getting distributed. They have a hard enough time sending out Social Security checks and not realizing they're sending them to people that are no longer with us. So it's a little frustrating. I think for me, and I don't care what business it is, whether it's a lawyer's office looking for someone to answer the phones, or a dental hygienist, or a restaurant, or a truck driver, especially truck drivers, because that's my world. People are so hard to come by. Yeah. That is the biggest number one thing every single business is going to face. That's the pandemic, people. Yeah. And if we continue to pay people to stay home, they will stay home. And services will take longer, services will be cut. And, just the quality of what you used to be able to get and what you get now is two different things. So
it is. It's amazing to walk into a restaurant now. It's half full, and they tell you there's a half an hour wait, and you wonder why is that? And we know that people are making $300 and more each week, right, on unemployment. And for these restaurants to compete, they have to find a way to pay them more than that, which of course is not sustainable. So this unemployment issue needs to be addressed. But Mike, I want you can share a lot with all of those things. So first, Mike, in the spring, when this all started a year ago, businesses coming to you saying, how do we get these funds? Probably, right? Not knowing quite how to get them. A lot, I'm sure that you helped. Are you still seeing the need for it? Our businesses are still saying we've got to get help from the government.
Well, let's go back to that. The Triple P was a godsend for a lot of businesses. There's no question about it. The SBA stuff was a boondoggle for a lot of businesses. As Sean said, they had a hard time figuring it out. And you go into places like Dover, these downtown businesses, it's a Hispanic community. They were sort of shut out from that. And the EDA was not very helpful for them. So, I'm not confident that the help is on the way for them. Although, the counties got their ARPA money, right? The American Rescue Plan Act money, and each county has, several millions of dollars to do different things with. And I think Morris County hopefully will do something with a small business grant program and make the administration of that much easier than the EDA. But, $5,000 or a couple $1,000 as a one-time hit isn't going to sustain you. Bobby mentioned something very important. He was well capitalized prior to the pandemic. Yep. And I've noticed that if you were a business living paycheck to paycheck, so to speak, you had a harder time, but those that were capitalized to a certain extent were able to sustain their way through this.
Right. Absolutely. That makes all the difference. And you also bring up an important point. The PPP was a simple application. Even the forgiveness of it, they've really simplified. And I've got to give them credit for that. It's rare that we can credit government agencies with simplifying something. Yeah. But in my working with other companies, I've seen that everything else is complicated. So, you know what, Mike, it's questionable where all this money is going. And you wonder if, in fact, it will get in the right hands and how soon. The urgency is there for some of these companies who were not well capitalized. And really, the restaurant field, they tend to not be, right? They tend to be living more sort of week to week, month to month based on their revenues. Mike, how do you feel about this whole unemployment issue and staffing? Isn't that another pain point that your companies are talking about?
It's the biggest pain point that we hear, especially in the service sector. There's no question about it. New Jersey, I think it's $731 a week is the maximum. You get 60% of your salary, plus the $300 kicker gives you over $1,000 a week. I don't think it's a sign of laziness to stay home for $1,000 a week. I think it's just, if you were getting $1,000 a week to go work in a restaurant or stay home for the summer, what would you do, right? So you're right. You go to these restaurants and they're getting crushed. I talk to so many restaurants that are closed on a 1 day a week. Or one guy, it's just me and my brother. That's all we can do. Our dining room is closed. A couple of places, dining room closed. There's a Cracker Barrel right by me, which is a huge destination. People come from New York. They had a lobby full of people, and they turned them all away. And their dining room is huge, and it was practically empty because of this lack of staffing. We tried to do a morning breakfast event with about 100 people recently, and the place we've done it at for years can't get the staff to even take our business in the morning. Wow. So they're just catching up on what they can on weekends with the pent-up demand for weddings. Which is it's a good thing for them, but they're having a hard time getting staff for it.
Right. And we not predicting that or not really thinking, around the corner when we're offering really a lot of incentives to stay home. And the other piece that people forget is we had schools shut down all last year, many of them. And if you have a 2-income household or a single mother, you have a situation where someone cannot literally go to work because they have to stay home with their young children who are in virtual school. And so, there are other reasons why people can't reenter the workforce. But here we are sitting with New Jersey having one of the highest levels of unemployment. And yet you see job signs everywhere, don't you? For hire signs everywhere. Bobby, a third of the businesses have closed. They're never reopening again, most likely. How fortunate do you feel that you were not one of them? And are you bullish about the future? Do you feel like you're going to keep expanding? And will you do it differently in case we're in another shutdown situation?
I'm an optimist at heart. I am. I know that this is really unknown territory, the pandemic. I mean, I'm 64. I can't remember any time in my life, work or as a business owner, that I've experienced anything like this. It's new territory. It's for me, it's like anything in life. I mean, nothing is certain. You always have to be adaptable to what comes your way, and you stay positive and focused. And with a smart business plan, you can get through it. And I know that might be a little easy for me to say where I'm sitting, because I came in midstream and I didn't have a business that was paycheck to paycheck struggling, or a different type of restaurant business. And again, my heart goes out to all of them, because a lot of the people are people who I know, chefs, restaurateurs. It's a very difficult time. As far as growth goes, I'm going forward. I am pushing forward. I'm taking one day at a time. I'm fortunate to have a good team around me. That I think is essential in navigating through whatever comes our way in the near future. But I am pushing forward, and I am optimistic about the future. I am.
Awesome. Well, that's great. That's the only way to be, honestly. Sean, when you looked around at your town's response, now I know we have Mike is a mayor, by the way, guys, mayor of Arlington, and we talked about Mayor Taylor in Florham Park. I know he worked hard to help the restaurants to open up dining on the sidewalks. You saw the towns really double down. Mike, I'm sure you worked with these restaurants as well to try to make accommodations in the code and things like that. Sean, when you saw that happening, let's compare that to what was coming out of Trenton. I kind of have a sense of what you're going to say, but I want to know how you feel about the decisions that were made for the shutdown towards businesses from our governor.
Well, seeing so many of my friends and people I've worked with get so decimated, there was conversations, with meeting with different township police chiefs and mayors and councils, and just asking them, is there any flexibility? Can't we do this? And the same answer was, if you get caught, they will come and make an example of you, and News 12 will be there, and they'll lock you up just to make an example of you. So everybody did as much as they could, and look, some people wanted to go out and still try to have some semblance of normalcy. And then there's the other people that, if they didn't see something that the governor said you were supposed to be doing, they would be calling every second. So, I think all in all, the ones that got the help from the financial part from the government and had a good clientele and still managed to keep people coming in and out. A lot of places adapted in the food world to takeout. Takeout became the standard, and how some of these places survived, right? So, I'm worried about what's coming. I'm always have a positive outlook, but you do see, a lot of things going on right now, and it does worry me. A good friend of mine who owns the Pomp Queen, I was just there today. He's really scared, because he's like, is this going to happen to me again? Is this going to happen to me again? They lost 75% of their business, and they survived off takeout and things like that. So, we'll see.
There is a lot of fear about what mandates may be coming down and what shutdowns. We're starting to see some decisions being made. Mike, how did Mount Arlington deal with their businesses? Were you able to get creative and come up with ways for them to survive and even thrive in the situation?
Yeah, we offered all our restaurants the ability to open up on the sidewalks or parking lots. They didn't really take us up on that, because they just were doing takeout only, and they had, their dining, their sit down dining didn't work out for them. But one of the things we did get very creative was with the renewal of the plenary license, also known as the liquor license.
Yeah.
We gave them, everybody with a liquor license got a big discount.
Nice.
Because some of them were closed. The bars were closed. Why should they pay the full amount for their liquor license?
Right, right.
So that was an important thing. I felt like I was a cheerleader also for these restaurants. And, I went out and bought something at every one and then made a video of eating a million different things, but really trying to encourage our residents to shop local and support their local businesses is a key piece of it.
Yeah. And we saw people come together and do that in a magnificent way, hoping we don't have to do that again. Mike, the one subject I did want you to talk about was the commercial real estate part of this. Mm-hmm. This is a long-term situation that I don't think we've dealt with yet. And Bobby was saying before, people getting used to working from home, these parking lots are empty. Mike, what are we going to do about this? Where are we a year from now when these companies have decided they're not going back? And we've got commercial building after commercial building, even storefronts empty. What are the landlords going to do? What is the long-term impact?
That is a great question. I dropped my crystal ball on the way here and it smashed all over the floor. I will try to work. I'll just try to wing it. But, I think we're at DEFCON 1. I really do. I can't give all the names of the businesses that I talked to about what they're seeing, but one of the larger businesses in the county did a survey of their employees and how many of them wanted to come back and not come back or work a virtual hybrid. 80% chose not to come back, 20% chose to come back. Now, they have a big corporate headquarters here in Morris County. The CEO said, I don't know what I'm going to do with the remaining space. I may have to sublease it. But the next question is, to who will you sublease that to? So you see, we were already overbuilt to a certain extent with office because there was a vacancy rate that was pretty, above nominal before the pandemic. Now it's going to be, I think, really off the charts. What I'm seeing, though, and it could be a wave of the future, is the repurposing of that ground. So you look over on 2 Campus Drive in Parsippany, the corner of Campus and Littleton Road. And the old 2 Campus Drive will be knocked down and some high-density residential will be put there. Now, everybody starts to scream about high-density residential. They're going to kill everything, the schools, the traffic. You have a choice of repurposing your buildings to something that is useful, that will bring in ratables to help lower taxes, or you let them turn to dinosaurs, you keep raising your taxes. There is a demand for housing. As you all know, a house goes on the market in this area, it's sold in days.
That's right.
The inventory is really low. So I'm thinking that what we're seeing perhaps will be a reconfiguring of it. The other thing I'd like to see in Morris County is light industrial. So, the industrial base in New Jersey is long gone, but the high-tech light industrial could come back. We have some of the talent. We could, there's a lot of talent in New Jersey. Look at Arconic, which is now Howell. They make high-tech aircraft engine parts over in Dover. You would never know they're there. They employ 800 people with highly skilled manufacturing jobs. So those are the two things I can imagine happening with all the empty office spaces, repurposing them.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a challenge for you at the chamber and a lot for you guys to do and to help with. And I do think we're going to be pivoting. I see Morristown in itself creating these mixed use buildings, right? With the residential on top and the storefront below. No longer are we going to see these big commercial buildings being built, perhaps. So it's going to be interesting to see how we handle all of that and how it changes the way that we live. Overall, we do have people who are resilient, thank God, right? And we are as a people, and we will find our way back. Entrepreneurs have a way of doing that. So it's hard to see some of these businesses close, but I know, Mike, that your organization has been trying hard to help people, and all of us have a heart towards these entrepreneurs and we all want to help. So we will all say as a group, let's hope we're not seeing another shutdown. Let's hope that we continue on the path to recovery. Just as a last thing, Bobby, do you want to say anything to the audience just about your business or about the future, just as a last moment?
What I will say is that I think we'll all get through this collectively. To Mike's point, the Chamber of Commerce, all the work that they're putting into this to help businesses, help the office buildings. I mean, all the above. To Sean, growing businesses sustaining in your sector, very difficult. But, I sense that, you've got a lot of steam in you, and you're going to push forward, and I'm sure you're going to get through and continue to grow your business. Regarding Pliables, the brand, it's very hot right now. I feel very fortunate that I involved myself in in this sector of the restaurant business. It's somewhat economy and pandemic resilient, if there's anything possible. So we'll continue to push forward and work with the community to try and grow.
It's interesting when you say that, because choosing a business, when some entrepreneurs actually say, what business do I want to be in? There's a thought process now, isn't there? Is this pandemic survivable, right? Is this a good business to be in this kind of situation? And by the way, Bobby, I have to tell you, a lot of my money is in your Florham Park.
Well, thank you.
It's very well. You can thank my daughter, but
we welcome your business. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sean, give us the last word on small businesses, New Jersey, in the future.
Yeah, to your point, I often said this to even my employees: our business is COVID proof to a point, just because of the nature of what we do. Everybody doesn't stop going, so they need us to keep coming. So yeah, that's a part of it. Realistically, like with small business, knowing where I was 7 years ago, getting to the point where we were prior to the pandemic, and then getting through it, and still being able to change angles and do different things, and open up other venues. It definitely is about not giving up, working, putting all the hard work in, and surrounding yourself with good people. It's not easy, but you have to make sure you find good people that have your best interest and your customers' best interest at heart. And when you assemble a great team, you can get through anything.
Absolutely. Mike, small business is really everything to this country. It's what we're built on. Do you think every small business can find a way to become COVID proof? Maybe that's a good thing we all try to do, to understand how to react and deal with future challenges. Do you think it's possible?
We're going to have to. It's going to have to be possible, and shutting down is not the answer. We can't look at New York City and what they did yesterday. That's going to crush so many businesses. Yeah. We can't go down that route. I think we're on the path to recovery. We have to be careful that we don't drive ourselves into hysteria. We need to be careful and safe, but we don't need to be hysterical about it. Common sense measures will prevail. And Bobby and Sean and Elizabeth, you guys are also positive, bringing that positive message out there to our residents in this region is what we need to do to make sure that we don't go back to where we were during the height of the pandemic. Bobby, I love the Pliables. Elizabeth, you're so right.
Does too.
Yeah, and Sean, nothing better than a clean porta potty too. So you guys are both
exactly
on the right track.
Our logo is the cleanest seat in town. So there you go.
Very good businesses. They have nothing to do with each other. However, they're both very solid. But Mike, I'm going to just repeat what you said. We don't need another shutdown.
No way.
I think that's important. I think we need to underscore what you just said. You've seen a lot. We're all business owners on this call. You've seen so much, Mike, in all the businesses that you work with. And the truth is that's not the answer. We're all smart people. We can come up with a lot of other ways to deal with a crisis. Shutting down, no longer an answer. So that's music to my ears and all of our listeners. Mike, please keep saying that, shouting that from the rooftop of the chamber to anyone who would hear you in Trenton, right? Or at least that one guy, maybe that one guy that needs to hear you. You know who he is. Yes. Guys, thank you so much for each of you coming on. I wish you all incredible success. Mike and Sean, thank you for serving your communities as well. We really appreciate that. And Bobby, we will be seeing you again and again and again. All right.
Jersey first.
All right, guys. Thank you so much to my audience. We'll see you next week.
Sean, sign the pledge.
Sign the pledge. Thank you, Sean.
Sign the pledge.
Go to jerseyfirst.org. Sean's got to help me do my job better. Sign the pledge that puts Jersey first, and it will put small businesses first and families first and communities first. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.